Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa-chānur-mardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. So, we are studying the Bhagavad Gita and we are on chapter 13, just in case people have forgotten. Yes. A very important chapter. I had mentioned earlier when we started chapter 13 that it comes at a crucial inflection point in the Bhagavad Gita. One way of dividing the Bhagavad Gita is into three parts, chapter 1 to 6, then chapters 7 to 12, and then 13 to 18. In what sense? The great Vedantic teaching, Tat Tvamasi, you are that. Our real nature is Brahman, you are that. The first 6 chapters are an investigation into the you. In Sanskrit, Tvam, you. Who am I? What am I? So broadly speaking, first 6 chapters we find that investigation. Then, in the next 6 chapters, an investigation into that. That is God here, the power of this in universe. That's from chapter 7 to 12. And there is a good deal of truth in this, because when we studied chapters 7 to 12, we found a lot of bhakti there, devotion. Talk about God, about incarnation, about devotion. And then finally brings it together. You are that. In what sense? Not literally, not in the vulgar, direct sense of I am God, but my real nature is what God also truly is. There is one shared divine reality, one limitless reality which we are. So that is, and that becomes clear in the first 2 verses of the 13th chapter. Krishna says there that idam shariram kaunteya kshetram-ityabhidhiyate. This body, O Arjuna, is the field. The name of this chapter is the field and the knower of the field. So just give it a name, label it, the field. And the one who experiences this from within, that's you or I. We experience our embodied state, that this, here is the body. It's the first fact of our, when you wake up in the morning, the body is the first fact. The one who experiences that is called the knower of the field. And then we investigate it further. On a first reading, knower of the field is just the person, you or I, or in technical terms in Vedanta, the sentient being, Jivatma, the living being, the sentient being, the one who experiences this living body, Jiva. And when we investigate it further, we realize our real nature is awareness or consciousness. Because when you say just the sentient being, the living being, we take it as a bundle. The living being, if I am forced to describe it, I will make an inventory, I am here, this awareness, and I have a mind, a personality, a history, and I have this body. All of it together is me, I. But Vedanta says the first insight into Vedanta, most powerful, dramatic insight is, you are awareness, and what you are aware of, that you are not. In fact, start there. What I am aware of is a thing, a part of the field, and therefore I am not it. That bears repetition. Whatever you are aware of, you are not that. Because if you are aware of it, it's an it, a thing. What distinguishes this thing from this thing? Both are things. What do you mean thing? How do you define a thing and it? Anything that you are aware of. And so now we are going round in circles. Whatever appears to us is a thing, is an object. It's the simplest of facts. And yet we make some dramatic adjustments with it. We play around, fool around with it. We say this is a thing, but this is not a thing, it's me. Why is it me? Well, it's always with me. No, it's not. For example, when you are dreaming, this body is not with you. You have a dream world, a body in the dream. Well, you say, no, but if you hit it, I don't feel it. But if you punch me, I definitely feel it. So it's me. But Vedanta says, look at it a little more carefully. Even the feeling of being punched or pinched or burnt, that pain, that sharp experience, that's also a thing because you're aware of it. So not only the body is a thing, our sensations are things too because we are aware of them. And our mind is a thing too. That's the most remarkable thing. What we are intimately bound up with, our own minds, that's also a thing consisting of thoughts, memories, emotions, ideas, a sense of self, ego. Even that's also part of the mind. It appears, plays around and disappears. Continuously changing, a flow of thoughts and emotions and perceptions and judgments. Thing. To me, then what am I? If everything that I consider to be myself, I have reduced to a thing, then what am I? I must, first of all, I do exist. There's no doubt about it. That's what Descartes discovered. And I'm clearly aware of these things. I'm experiencing these things. So I must be awareness or consciousness. This existence, which is also a shining existence, which is aware of everything. So this aware existence I am, Krishna says, call it the knower of the field, kshetrajna. Already it's a tremendous jump forward. This is not how we see ourselves normally. So then comes an even bigger jump, a tremendous breakthrough. The next verse. Krishna says, kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. A remarkable statement. We discussed it, I think, over a period of 2 or 3 classes. That know me to be the knower of the field in all fields. Because when you say I am awareness, we get this intuitive feeling, okay, I am aware, but there are so many of these fields. In each of these fields, there is an awareness. So there must be different awarenesses. Can consciousness be plural? This is the big question. And Krishna says no. If you thoroughly flush out all things, all its, from your idea of self, make everything that you thought was the self, if it's something that you are aware of or can be aware of, put it firmly in the camp of the field. And you are only the knower of the field. Then the knower of the field can only be consciousness. And that consciousness, without regard to the body, without regard to the sensory system, without regard to this particular mind, which are all things, in that case, you don't have a privileged perspective from this point. So only consciousness through mind and these senses, then I feel that I am here. You are feeling you are there. You are seeing me from there. I am seeing you from here. And hence we are different. But no, the bodies are different. The sensory systems are different. Because our bodies are located differently, we are getting different points of view. But is consciousness by itself different? Are there separate consciousnesses? Krishna says no. There's only one consciousness. And this one consciousness in all bodies, in all minds, this one consciousness is the Vedantic idea of God. He says, kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi. One of the ideas of God. There are higher. This is the deepest idea of God. Almost deepest. There's one further one. The attributeless consciousness, Nirguna Brahman. But this one consciousness in association with all sentient beings. He says, Krishna says, I am that. And this entire universe is an appearance in consciousness. So this is the final meaning of you are that, tattvamasi. The grand Vedantic conclusion, Atman is Brahman. You are that, tattvamasi. Before we go ahead, just one thing which a scholar brought to my attention a couple of days ago is an article in a science journal which makes consciousness studies. So which makes a new claim from a different, interesting direction. It says that consciousness does not have so much to do with the brain as with life. Consciousness is a phenomenon of living beings, not so much a question of a brain or nervous system. And then it goes on, but that is an interesting take because in a certain way, Vedanta and many other Indian philosophies, they agree very closely with that. What Vedanta says, or other Indian philosophies also say, that we, other than the physical body, we have what is called a subtle body. And a part of that subtle body is prana, life. It's only when a body has a subtle body in it, with prana, then you're called a living being. What distinguishes a living being from a non-living being? In Sanskrit or in just every Indian language, there's a word called prana. In fact, death in Indian languages is often the departure of prana from the body. Prana basically is vitality, is life itself. So, and the claim is wherever this prana is there the subtle body is there, and there consciousness becomes manifest. Consciousness by itself is a transcendent phenomenon, pure consciousness. But wherever subtle bodies are present, that consciousness is reflected there, and you see sentient beings. What distinguishes you from the chair you're sitting on? You are a sentient being, a jiva, a knower of the field, kshetrajna, but that chair is just an insentient object. What distinguishes your body from the chair? That's a more subtle question. Your body is a field because you are the knower of the field there. The chair is not a field. I mean, it's part of the field in a general sense, but in the sense of a living body being a field. So only our living bodies are fields. So consciousness being manifested in subtle bodies, and this new theory that consciousness has more to do with life than a particular nervous system or brain. Do you see the similarities, the promise? I mean, of course, the scientific theory is that life is essential in generating consciousness, and Vedanta or Sankhya would not say that life generates consciousness. Vedanta says life means the presence of a subtle body, and subtle bodies reflect consciousness. Okay. Now, all this is done actually. And then we moved on to the next topic which we were doing. Krishna points out 20 practices and says these are knowledge, and whatever is opposed to these is ignorance. 20 practices. And these practices they sort of sandwich enlightenment. They are there before enlightenment, they are there after enlightenment. Before enlightenment, they help us to attain enlightenment. Post-enlightenment, they manifest that enlightenment. So, what are these 20 practices? We have started seeing those, and that's what we were discussing when we were majorly interrupted by my travels. If you're feeling warm, then you switch on the fan. In case you're feeling warm. Warm is equal to cozy is equal to sleepy. Especially when you're studying Vedanta. All right. Yeah, it's on. Verses 7 to 11. 20 practices. Amānitvam adambhitvam. You can repeat. Amānitvam adambhitvam. Amānitvam adambhitvam. Ahinsā kṣhāntir ārjavam. Ahinsā kṣhāntir ārjavam. āchāryopāsanaṁ śhauchaṁ. āchāryopāsanaṁ śhauchaṁ. sthairyam ātma-vinigrahaḥ. sthairyam ātma-vinigrahaḥ. And so on it goes, 8, 9, 10, 11 verses with 20 practices. But we were on the 7th verse. What are these practices? Amānitvam, which is egolessness or humility. Then adambhitvam, which is non-ostentatiousness. Yeah, I got it right. Ostentatious is showing off. Then ahinsā, non-violence. Kṣhāntir, forgiveness. Ārjavam, straightforwardness, simplicity. āchāryopāsanaṁ, respect or reverence for the teacher. śhauchaṁ, cleanliness. sthairyam, steadiness. ātma-vinigrahaḥ, control of the self or the senses and mind. Now we were on this, and if I remember, we had talked about āchāryopāsanaṁ. All of these have deeper meanings. They are all, I tried to show how they are rooted in non-duality, all of them, how they are connected to non-dual Vedanta. Now, śhauchaṁ, cleanliness. So we all know, we all learned as kids, X is next to godliness, cleanliness is next to godliness. We all learned, yes. So physical cleanliness, but also mental cleanliness. Physical, verbal, mental. Physical, of course, take a shower and keep your stuff clean and all of that. I remember my first experience in the monastery, the earliest experiences. The Swami gave me a room to clean, a big room. So I swept it nicely, and you have to mop it with a wet cloth. So I did all of that. Then the Swami came for inspection. The first thing he did was he opened the door and looked behind the door and found a cobweb. I'd cleaned the whole thing. I'd forgotten behind the door is where all the dust accumulates. And so he said, do it all over again. So physical cleanliness. I remember once again in the main monastery in Belur Math, in the main temple. Behind the temple is like a little storeroom where all, like this, you can't see it, it's behind the curtains, where all the preparations for the puja are done, the flower vases are arranged and all, the offerings are arranged, all of that. Sort of the back end of the operation, let's say, the divine operation. And I was there, I was polishing a flower vase. That was my duty that day. And one monk entered that little room and he said, what are you doing? I said, polishing a vase, Swami. He said, no, you're polishing your mind. Yeah. So cleanliness, physically, but when you do it as a spiritual practice, it also affects the mind, definitely. Yes, I know. Immediate objection would be, we have heard of so many saints who were quite ragged and dirty and scruffy. That's all right when a certain stage of inner purity is attained. They are like that not on purpose. They can be like that as a mortification, one, or just because they are not aware of their external surroundings or the physical body. The mind might be so absorbed in God. So Sri Ramakrishna sometimes used to be so absorbed in God, he wouldn't be aware whether the cloth on his body was there. But when he would come back to awareness of the world around, he was a very, very meticulous person. Cleanliness, keeping things where they belonged. He insisted on that. Once somebody came into his room, a disciple, he said, go to that particular tree in the garden out there, in the grove, in Dakshineshwar, and under that you will find a pile of vegetable shavings, vegetable skins which have been dressed. And under that, look under that, you will find a knife. So he went, this man, and he found it. And he said, how did you know? He said, earlier this morning, a picnic group had come. And they had forgotten to get a knife. So one of them came to me and said, can I borrow a knife? I said, yes, but you must promise to return it. He said, yes, I will do that. I knew at that moment he wouldn't return it. He would forget. See, you've come for a picnic, you've forgotten to get a knife. Now, you're going to return it. Well, he won't. And I was right, he didn't. And I know exactly where he's left it. So see, he hasn't seen anything at all. That happened far away. But he's quite sure, he sees the mind of the person. And he knows what's going on there. And I knew that he had cut the vegetables and the fruits. And once those were ready, he had utterly forgotten about the knife. It must be under the pile of vegetable cuttings. So keeping things where they belong. I mentioned it on other occasions. Sounds very simple. It's really, really deep. I mean, at one level is keeping things where they belong. But in Vedanta, I know this monk who said, how do you apply Vedanta? He said, I'll tell you in Hindi and then I'll translate. Jo cheez jahan ka hai, usko wahi rehne dijiye, Swami ji. Keep things where they belong. What does it mean? Say, I'm old and wrinkled. No. Your awareness. Wrinkles and old age, they are in the body. Keep it where they belong. Don't take it upon yourself. The body is old and wrinkled and bent. Awareness is not old and wrinkled and bent. That's ridiculous. How can awareness be bent? Oh, I'm so overweight. I am not overweight. I am awareness and I'm aware of the body which happens to be overweight. The body is 200 pounds. Awareness is not 200 pounds. That's ridiculous. This might sound strange, this way of talking and thinking, but it's actually the literal fact. Just literal fact right now. Keep things where they belong. They belong there in the body. I'm so depressed. No. Are you aware of being depressed? Of course, that's why I'm saying I'm depressed. If you're aware of being depressed, the depression is in the mind. You are the awareness which is aware of the depression in the mind. The mind which was not depressed, was excited at one time, you're aware of that. Now it is depressed, you're aware of that. The excitement was in the mind, it came and went, you were there, you're aware. The depression is in the mind, it came, it's there now, it'll go away. You are aware. Depression is not in you, nor is excitement in you. Anything that you are aware of is an object, field, it's in the field, it's not in the knower of the field. Simple principle. Analytically it makes sense, but more important is to apply it psychologically, to see it as a fact. Every feeling that we have is a thing, it's a part of the field, part of the subtle field. Every idea that we have, every grudge that we bear, every negativity that we harbor, every fear and anxiety that we foster is part of the field, is part of the mind. So all of that, including everything, including our material projects and even our spiritual projects, they're all part of the mind. It's in the field. You are awareness, the knower of the field. Keep things where they belong. Don't take it upon yourself. The knower of the field is not old. The knower of the field is not overweight. The knower of the field is not anxious or depressed. Not at all. It's the knower of these things. It's the illuminer of these things. Anyway, keeping things where they belong. Of course, at the level of cleanliness, it starts physically. Verbally, people are used to cursing. Swami Ranganathanandaji, who was the president of our order for a long time, the 13th president of our order, he said one day he came home from school and he had learned a new curse word at school. It's the first things that kids pick up. And he said it proudly, and his mother said quietly but firmly, if you use such language, Saraswati will never dwell on your tongue. Saraswati, the goddess of learning, your tongue has become dirty. The goddess of learning will never dwell on you. And that impacted the little boy's mind so much, he became extremely careful of his language forever after that. Yeah. Cleanliness at the level of verbal level, and cleanliness at the mental level. Also, Sri Ramakrishna was very particular about cleanliness at the level of occupation. Our livelihood, especially as householders, because upon householders depends everybody else. So our livelihood should be an honestly earned livelihood. It could be simple. It may not be, it may not be super rich, but as long as we are confident, you're confident that I have done my best. I engage in an honest profession and I pay my taxes. I am clean that way. That is an important part of it. Sri Ramakrishna couldn't accept gifts. As a monk, he would be given gifts by householders and devotees who would visit. But if somebody was used to fibbing or lying or stealing or made their money through dishonest means, he couldn't touch it. It would physically hurt him to go near that. So that's an extreme demonstration. But purity also means śhauchaṁ, the purity of occupation. Then next comes sthairyam, steadiness. Steadiness at different levels. Steadiness in ritual and puja, steadiness in meditation and japa, steadiness in Vedanta. Let me start at the level of puja. I remember that. One of the monks who was assigned the task of worshipping in the temple of our main monastery. Now it's a difficult duty because we jokingly used to call it puja duty. Puja means worship. Worship is not supposed to be a duty, it's an act of love. But anyway, if you're assigned it, it feels very much like a duty. You have to get up earlier than most other monks, which is really, really early. And you have to maintain a certain level of purity throughout the day. It's a tough psychologically after some time. It's rigorous. So the monks assigned to do the worship in the main temples, in the temples in our order, they are changed every few months. So you do the worship in the temple 2 months, then you get 2 months downtime, do something else. Somebody else does the worship. Now I know this very senior monk of our order. He was the monk who was assigned the worship for decades and decades. I mean, in the 2 months off and 2 months on. But I found him, and we all see, whenever he used to have those 2 months downtime, he would still worship. Maybe not in the temple, but in the room. Whenever he would walk in the monastery grounds, he's still chanting the mantras. Every day, I heard when he, in fact, when he goes on train journeys, used to go, he would have a little miniature puja kit. In the train itself, he would perform the daily puja. He didn't take it as a duty. He didn't take it as something tough that he needed some downtime from. I myself seen this elderly monk. I was in a particular ashram, which that monk was visiting. He was not assigned to do anything. He was elderly. I mean, he is elderly. He was just visiting. But in that ashram, in the shrine, daily puja is performed. And I found that elderly monk would invariably turn up during the puja time and sit there and watch the puja completely. This is steadiness. It's a lifelong steadiness. And it's there all his life. I heard from another monk that when this monk, very senior monk who is the worshipper in the temple, when he was young, in the monastery where he was staying, he was assigned to go somewhere which would take him out of the monastery for a day or two. He would travel. He hesitated, and a senior monk said, I understood why he hesitated. He said, I'll take care of it. And this monk left. People asked, what will you take care of? We know that this young monk, he has a Shiva Linga in his room, which he worships every day in the morning. If he's going overnight, he's away. That means next morning he won't be able to worship it. So that's why he hesitated. And when I said, I'll take care of it, he left with a free mind. See, this is called nishtha, dedication, steadiness. Steadiness. Stay with it. Staying with it is a very, very great quality. There's a lovely saying I came across. American saying. Who's a big shot? A big shot is a little shot who keeps shooting. A little shot who keeps shooting. Big shot. Just staying with it. This is an example of puja. But then go a little further. Meditation. Japa, repetition of the mantra, the kind of meditation that we practice. I have seen so many such examples. The Holy Mother, Ma Sharada Devi, will be celebrating her birthday on Sunday and doing the puja here. One day, this person, young man, she had initiated into the practice of a mantra. He asked her, what is the secret of success, of God realization? And she said, pointing to a little clock, not like this, the mechanical clocks which used to be there, you had to wind them up, on the wall. She said, look at that, how the needle moves, the pointer moves, the seconds hand, tick, 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 like that. As it does, so also keep on repeating God's name, the mantra, all your life. That's all you need to do. That's it. Steadiness in the mantra. Steadiness in meditation. One of the things I've seen over the years, those who regularly do meditation. I have told you this story about the monk who was dying. He was in the hospital, the intensive care unit, where you cannot make out day or night because the lights are always on. And but the doctors would see in the last few days of the life of this elderly dying monk, every time, just before 4 a.m., he was used to meditating all his life. Just before 4 a.m., this dying old man would struggle up in his bed and sit half reclined and start meditating and repeating the mantra. This steadiness, it's a lifelong practice. And once it becomes a lifelong practice, it stands us in good stead. That when this beautiful saying, recently I read, We do not rise to the level of our ideas. We fall to the level of our training. In life, we may read many things, we may understand many things, we may desire, aspire for many things. It's not at all easy to rise to that. Most of us fail. But where do we succeed? We fall to the level of our training. What we have done steadily for a long period of time, that stands us in good stead. It's always available to us. You've practiced getting up early in the morning for years and years, you will get up. And it will seem effortless to you. You practice sitting in calm meditation morning and evening, you will sit for meditation. If you don't, you will feel uneasy. But a person who has suddenly heard a TED talk about the importance of getting up early in the morning and meditating thinks, is inspired. I'll do it from tomorrow. Will not. Might do it 1 day, 2 days, third day will fail. But if that person persists and holds on, it becomes second nature. Somebody said habit. It's second nature, third nature. So steadiness. Steadiness at the level of meditation. Steadiness in Vedanta. In the study of Vedanta. I remember one of our monastic masters rebuking us. He said, study. He said, you do not study. You do not read. He was telling us young monks. You do not read, you flip. You flip pages. And then he pointed out, go and see that monk. There was a very senior monk. He says, go and see him how he studies. And that's truly, that Swami, I would go to see him. He would always be sitting in an armchair, one of those long wooden armchairs. He was elderly, maybe in his 80s. He would always have the commentaries of Shankara open. How many times he must have read them throughout the decades of his monastic life. But they are always open. He's always studying that. And when I would bow down, or any one of us, we would bow down to him, he would look, he would acknowledge, and then go back. Now that's an extreme case. You don't have to be like that. But that just shows steadiness. It's not that he's reading, taking up things in a book to be finished, and the next book from the library, and the next book from the library. It's end of the year. I saw a message that what top 40 books issued in the New York Public Library system. Yes, that's one way of reading. But in spiritual life, it's more important to come back to the central teachings and stay there. So this monk is not reading to read new things. He has read it 100 times earlier, but he's staying there. That's steadiness in Vedanta. Two instances from the teaching of Vedanta. One very great monk I had the occasion to meet and study a little bit with, attend some of his classes, Ramananda Saraswati, who has passed away now. So he is starting a class on the Mandukya Upanishad and Mandukya Karika. So, first class. He has taught it earlier, but again, starting the first class. Somebody asked, so how long do we expect it to go on? When will it be finished? And his answer was sweet but firm. He said, the goal is not to finish it. Samapt karna hai, aisi koi baat nahi hai. The goal is not to finish it. How long then? He said, as long as the breath flows, Mandukya will continue. Jab tak swas chalegi, Mandukya chalega. What he means is Vedantic study will continue. What else will you do? We're in a hurry. Let me finish that and now go on to the next thing. Been there, done that, become enlightened, finished, done. Now, no. That's childish. What else will you do? That's steadiness. Another example, there again in the Himalayas, a class on Sanskrit grammar was starting. This Swami had a particularly high-pitched voice, I remember. I wasn't there, I heard the recording. The first class, somebody asked the same question, how long will it take? It is a text of Sanskrit grammar. So, it's called Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi. How long will it take? And the Swami said, leave, just now, out of the class. In Hindi, somebody asked, kitna samay lagega? And the Swami said, aap to abhi nikal jao. You leave right now. It's over for you. So steadiness, stay with it. Revered Swami Suhitanandaji, who is the vice president of our order, he told me of his younger days as a monastic novice, serving Swami Premeshananda, who was a disciple of the Holy Mother and who in his own time was regarded as an enlightened person. He was very sick in his old age. And Swami Suhitanji told us, when we were novices, he said, that old Swami, it's late in the night, I had to get up early in the morning before 4 a.m. And now it's late in the night, 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the night. And I am slowly helping the Swami to go to the bathroom. Standing in the bathroom, he's telling me, look, please understand this, the 5 levels of the human panchakosha vichara, 5 levels of the human personality, the physical, physiological, have you understood this? And I would say, yes, Swami, hurry it up, we have to go. I just wanted to go back to sleep. I was a young man and exhausted, I needed my sleep. But see, staying with it. Once he said, he tested the old Swami. This Suhitanji himself told me. The old Swami was lying in the bed, Premesh Maharaj. And he said, I asked him, just now, right now, what are you thinking? And immediately, without hesitation, Premesh Maharaj said softly, Sarva Vyapi Sri Ramakrishna, the all-pervading Sri Ramakrishna. Staying with it. Now, physically, stillness. The topic is sthairyam, stillness. Meditation, one needs to sit. There is in the Brahma Sutras, there is a sutra, asino sambhavat. Success in meditation is possible while sitting. One might say, yeah, no-brainer. But no, there's a point there. Physical stillness is necessary. Now we are moving to the to meditation. Stillness. Steadiness. So physical steadiness, the ability to sit still. The mind is so delicate that the least movement of the body will set up ripples in the mind. It is said it's like a bowl of water full to the brim. If your hand trembles even a little bit, it will spill over. So you have to be as careful with that. Still. As far as possible. Physical stillness. I have to tell the funny story in this regard. Again, it's just word of mouth. So in ancient times, there was this great sage, Akshapada. Literally the name means eye in the foot. And so naturally, it's a strange name. You will have a funny story about, or an interesting story about what does it mean? Why eye in the foot? So this great sage, he had a habit of meditating while walking around. Walking meditation, let's say. And if you do that in the Himalayas, the inevitable will happen. You're going to trip. It's rocky. It's mountainous. So he tripped and fell. The sage was furious and he decided to curse the Himalayas. Be thou flat. And the Himalayas were, of course, terrified. And so the Himalayas and the gods, they all went to Vishnu and appealed to him. Please, do something. The sage is going to make the Himalayas flat. What a terrible thing. And then Vishnu appears before the sage and says, why don't you sit and meditate? And the sage said, where does it say so? At that point, nowhere did it say so. And that's why later on it was put in the scriptures. It's possible while sitting. So he said, where does it say so? I'll meditate while I'm walking. What's it to you? Now what do you do? So finally, Vishnu granted him an eye in the foot so that he could see where he was walking. That's just a roundabout way of trying to explain the name. But there's a point to the name. Probably he used to keep his vision focused just at where his footsteps fell. He wouldn't look here and there. That's a way of calming the mind. One way the mind becomes restless is if the eyes flicker. So to calm the mind. Sometimes I've seen monks do that. They walk with eyes downcast. It's a practice. You don't look around. Asino sambhavat. It is possible while sitting. And one must have determination while sitting. Again, the funny story of the Zen monks who were sitting outside the monastery. And on the monastery, a flag was flying. So the youngest of the monks said, "Oh, look, look, the flag is flying. A flag is moving." A more senior monk who was, wanted to show off his in-depth knowledge, he said, no, not the flag. It's the wind which is moving. There was a third monk who was even more senior who said, "No, that's silly. It is the mind which is moving." And the senior-most monk was trying to get a nap high up in the monastery, and he looked out of the window and he said, "The tongues are moving, I see." Sit steadily, silently, for prolonged periods of time. Ma Sharada herself would tell her devotees, the ones she initiated into mantra, practice sitting so that you can sit comfortably for 2 hours at a stretch, she would say. Initially, your knees might hurt or ankle might hurt, you adjust. Afterwards, she said, you won't even need to do that when the mind becomes absorbed. Steadiness. Funny story again, because it's her birthday coming close, I have these stories about her. Where she was in the Calcutta ashram, which is now called Mother's House in Calcutta, if you go, Udbodhan. It was quite a community. There were monks, there were these ladies staying with her, all sorts of people. And they had a community life, so they had to all come and eat at particular times. The bell was given, and then you had to come and eat. Now there was this monk, Purnananda, he was a doctor. And he wouldn't come when the bell for the night supper rang, he wouldn't come. Everybody would finish eating and go, and he would come late, and to the annoyance of the Swami in charge of the kitchen, because he would have to wait with the food, the plate and all. So finally this came to the people were grumbling, and they came to the ears of the mother. Somebody said to her, "Look, that Swami is not coming on time." So she called that Swami, and she was always very gentle. She said, "My child, what's wrong? Why don't you come on time when the bell is rung?" Tears came to his eyes. He says, "What can I do, mother? My guru, that is Swami Brahmananda, my guru has told me that before you go to sleep at night, be sure to complete repeating the mantra 10,000 times. And repeat it keeping careful count. If you lose count, start from the beginning all over again. And if you do not do it properly, all the results of your mantra, that is repetition of the mantra, will be eaten by a Rakshasa. Rakshasa is a demon. A demon will come and eat up all the results of your practices." And he was in tears when he said this. She burst out laughing. She said, "Oh, did he tell you this? See, you are young, your mind wavers, and so in order to scare you and make sure that you worked sincerely at it, that's why he told you this. Don't worry. Do as much as you can. Keep note of how much you have done, and when the bell rings, come for food. Have your food along with everybody else, and then go back and finish the rest. No harm will come." She said, "No harm will come." The demon won't come and eat up all the results of your practices. Steadiness. Steadiness. The Buddha, when finally sat down that night, the quarters of the night, level by level, all his layers of illusion went away, and he was enlightened by daybreak. He sat down. What was the vow he took? "Ihasane shushyatu me deha me shari." Let my body dry up in this asana where I'm sitting. Let the flesh melt from my bones, but without attaining enlightenment, either death or I will attain enlightenment. Otherwise, I will not get up from this seat. And he did. Don't try it. Remember, he had already been practicing meditation very seriously for over a decade before he did that. But be steady in practice, whatever our regular practice is. People hop, skip, and jump, especially these days, because we have a wide variety, a supermarket of religion and religious practices. Meditation, yes, a supermarket of meditation practices. This ain't working. I'll try another one. Somebody was initiated into a mantra, and coming out of the temple, he said, "Oh, I already knew that." That's not the point whether you know it or not. Now you have been formally initiated in it. Now practice. Now practice. Lifelong. And I've seen people who've been initiated into the mantra practice in our lineage. Now comes and asks, should I go to that meditation camp, or can I try that meditation technique? You may, but why do you need to? One thing is very sure for all of these people, they have not been doing the mantra meditation seriously. If you do that, you don't need anything else. You may. There's no restriction. Our order is very liberal. Go for this camp, that practice, whatever. It's wonderful. But what you have got, revered Swami Tapasyanandaji, who is the vice president of our order, he says that when you have been given the mantra, you have been given God. These are literal words I'm quoting. In the seed form, you have been given the mantra, you have been given God. Now you have to cultivate it, but it's there. Your connection has been made. It's right there. So steadiness. Let my body melt away. Let it die in this seat, in this meditation seat. But I will not get up before attaining enlightenment. Swami Trigunatitananda, one of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, whatever he did to extremes. So one day the other monks found he was not coming for food. And then they realized that he had taken a vow that he would keep on repeating the mantra until he became enlightened. And he wouldn't get up from the seat and he wouldn't come for his food. The other monks tried to persuade him in various ways. At least come and eat and then go back and repeat the mantra. No. And finally, a compromise was reached. Swami Shivananda, upon whom Trigunatitananda had a lot of reverence, he said the compromise was he would sit next to Swami Trigunatitananda, and while Swami Trigunatitananda ate hurriedly, he would repeat the mantra, and Trigunatitananda would touch his body with one hand and eat quickly. A sort of cable connection. But what is meant here is that steadiness, that I will not be shaken. Resolve, I will not be shaken. Do not give up the spiritual practices, even under pressure, when sometimes there are emergencies, sometimes there's a lot of work, sometimes you have no time at all. Do as much as you can. Don't stop. Just because I don't have time to do it well, I don't have time to do it completely, well, do as much as you can. But never let the link be broken. Over time, we will find that spiritual practice, that mantra, that meditation technique, which I have been doing all my life, that is the center of my life. Everything else has melted away into it's become a phantom in the past. This is real. So this is meditation, steadiness in meditation. Let's go a little further. Vedantic steadiness, the steadiness of the Atman, of pure consciousness, Atman, Brahman, the knower of the field, kshetragya. It's a choiceless steadiness. You can't do anything about it. It's there always. Everything else flows and changes. Our waking life melts away into sleep and dream life. Dreams melt away into deep sleep darkness. Change is upon us. But one thing is constant, the light of the Atman, consciousness, awareness, you are that. That does not flicker. You are that, choicelessly, without trying to be steady. You are steady. Life and death. This body will one day die. Body is born, it ages and it dies. Atman, steady. Body is continuously flowing. The mind is continuously flowing. Atman is steady. Even more subtle, in meditation, when this restless mind is finally calmed into meditation, dhyana, and maybe if you are lucky, few moments of actual absorption, samadhi. But you will come out of that again, pop out of that again. Even in meditation, even in successful deep meditation, so-called steadiness is also, it comes and goes. Atman is the witness of that mind, the mind which is in vikshepa, in movement, and the mind which is in samadhi. Both are illumined by the ever steady light of the Atman. What is steady in this world? This world, the world which is the field, including the body which is the field, it's all made of prakriti, nature, ever in motion, never at rest. The mind, you will make it steady by meditation. Chitta is chitta vritti. It will always break out into waves. As I just said, the slightest movement of the body is like shaking the bowl with water. It will break out into waves. Religious life, dharma. Work hard at it. It will change this life into heaven. After death, we will go to heaven and stay there for some time. Exhaust the results of your karma. Back to this world you are. And if you do not work hard at dharma, to hell you go then. And back to this world you are again. It's constantly changing. The results of action, of karma. Results of yoga, meditation. From chitta vikshepa, disturbed mind, to dhyana, chitta ekagrata, settled mind, to samadhi. And back to chitta vikshepa again. So what do? Do neti neti for all of this. Not this, not this. Not the world of change, not this field, the body. Not the mind, which is also the field, ever changing mind. Neti, neti, not this, not this. Not the worlds produced by karma, this world. The heavenly worlds, the hellish worlds, neti, neti. And you are left with Atman, the pure consciousness, which is the witness of all of these. It's ever steady. There you build. You are that, I am that. Know that to be the primary fact about ourselves. Afterwards, yes, build up a pure, steady, devoted mind. Express it in life of service and blessedness and helpfulness. Good. But I am steady. Already I am the witness consciousness. I am immortal. I am that Atman Brahman. I am always one with God, choicelessly. There's a beautiful song, Kabir Das. It goes like this: Ram Niranjan Nyarare. So Ram Niranjan is Rama, who is Niranjan, that means Brahman, pure consciousness, the attributeless absolute. The word Rama, it is understood in different ways. First meaning of Rama is, of course, the prince of Ayodhya, the son of the king Dasharatha in the story Ramayana. Second meaning is Rama as the incarnation of Vishnu, is the incarnation of God. Third meaning is Rama, who is all-pervasive, who is Brahman pervading the entire universe. As Krishna says, I am the knower of the field in all fields. That Rama. But the fourth one is quite apart from all of this. It's the transcendent. It's the absolute. You can call it Rama. Rama Niranjan Nyarare. Ram Niranjan Nyarare, Anjana Sakala Paserare. That means, Anjan means tainted. It's tainted by Maya. Niranjan means not tainted. The absolute, pure consciousness. So Ram Niranjan is utterly transcendent, pure consciousness. And everything else is tainted with Maya, is produced by Maya. Every other thing. Very beautiful song. Sung, especially if you hear it sung by classical singer Kumar Gandharva. It's available on YouTube. You should listen to it. Very meditative song. So do neti neti for all of this and realize your ever steady nature as pure consciousness. Sthairyam, steadiness. Ātma-vinigrahaḥ. We have really run out of time. Somebody said, Swami, you have been on this one verse for 3 classes now, across 3 months. I promise to move faster in the next class. But these are such wonderful, this is just indicative. There are 20 practices, we could spend the rest of the year on these 20 practices. They're so deep. But now, let me do the peace chant. I'll take questions after that. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. You can get the basket, yes. If you have questions, observations, yes. Tell us your name and ask the question.
My name is Himanshu. You started the beginning of lecture, you said there is some scientific publication about life and consciousness.
Yes.
So and I notice that often in your lectures you find connection between science and Vedanta. Now my way of thinking, a very, very small little way of thinking, is that Vedanta is a logical necessity irrespective of all those things.
Yes.
Is that the right way to look at Vedanta?
Correct. That's the right way. Vedanta is is a logical necessity and corresponds directly to our experience of the world and our experience of ourselves. If you do philosophy based directly on our experience, you will get Vedanta. So, science is empirical. But the only thing is, this is an age of science. Now, one can either completely disregard science and do a traditional teaching of Vedanta, which I have also gone through, and I've attended classes by masters of Vedanta in the Himalayas and other places, monks teaching them. But the way I use science is, see, ultimately we live in one world. There are not two worlds. There is not a scientific world and a Vedantic world. And science at its core, most fundamental sciences, are trying to understand this world. Technology, everything is downstream. But at the core, science and mathematics are trying to understand this world. And so is Vedanta. So it should not be impossible to find mapping once in a while. Or right now I can say, where does science go? Where is it pointing towards? And where does it stop? And where does Vedanta start? One way is to dismiss science altogether and say, just stick to Vedanta. But I noticed Vivekananda did not do that. He had these remarkable conversations with Nikola Tesla, for example, right here in this city, in New York. And he wanted to know what are the latest understanding of physics. What does it say about cosmology and the universe? Of course, physics was not all that advanced at that time. So one may find interest in the scientific view of the world. And it's not that Vedanta has to conform to the scientific view of the world, but that could be a good way of segueing into Vedanta. There will be something in the science of our age which will match with or point to Vedanta, something that will not.
Thank you. So, to start, Vedanta is a logical necessity. What scripture, in your opinion, is the best to start that way on the path to learning?
Vedanta is straightforward. You have to, if you are serious about Vedanta, you have to at one time or the other come to the Upanishads with the commentaries of Shankaracharya. But I always suggest first make an entry through a Prakarana Grantha, that is an introductory text like Vedanta Sara, or I often suggest Drigdrishya Viveka. It's a minor introductory text, but it's also an exciting one. So that it's short, easily graspable. It introduces you directly to that logical way of developing Vedanta. And then you go on to the Upanishads. And Bhagavad Gita, of course, is part of Vedanta. And at some point, little look into the Brahma Sutra is also necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Here. Raise your hand. You have to be aggressive about raising your hand. You have to catch his attention.
Hi, Swami. My name is Arvind.
Yes.
Everything that you said about steadiness of practice, I try to maintain that. In my case, it's mindfulness, Zen practice, and we're supposed to be doing it constant, non-stop. And it's always easier when time perception changes and it doesn't feel like I have to keep doing it. Whenever there are blessed moments in the day when it really just feels like one is stepping out of this, you get all of this for free, steadiness and integrity and everything. And the moment I switch back to, okay, I need to keep doing this, it becomes incredibly burdensome because the whole day is ahead of me still. So it's usually accidental when this awareness of time changes. Is there any way to be more deliberate about that?
Don't pursue that directly. That's stepping out of time. Witness consciousness is beyond time. Time is always allied with thinking. When the mind is working, there's time. When there's causality, there's time. Cause and effect, it depends on time. When we want to do something, I am the doer of an action, then there's time. Because I set into motion a cause and then I'll get the result of that. Practice is again linked to time. Practice means in Sanskrit, sadhana. And literally the term means something done to get something else. The goal is sadhya. Whereas The real teaching of Vedanta is your real nature, awareness, the knower of the field, Atman or Brahman, is timeless. It's timelessly present right now. And all we need to do is to remove our misperception, our ignorance, and we'll see that it's a fact right now. And it's not even a product of effort. It's not something to be practiced. There are two terms used by Shankaracharya. Purushatantra, Vastutantra. Purushatantra means something to be done by an agent. Purusha means a human being, for example, a practitioner. And Vastutantra means a matter of fact, which is already established. You don't have to do anything about it. In fact, you cannot do anything about it. So what Vedanta teaches, the spiritual path of Vedanta is Vastutantra. It just reveals a fact to us. Every other path, including meditation paths, they are all Purushatantra. They're things to be done. Where I'm leading with this is, once we understand that we are awareness choicelessly so, then all those things to be done, they also become much easier. Which is another way of phrasing what you yourself said. You have noticed it becomes easier when you step out of time. Vedanta says you already are out of time. You are the witness consciousness, and you're witness of mind, you're witness of time. One way to trigger that would be this thing which says at those moments of being the witness of time, being out of time, it's much easier. Right now, when I have to deliberately do it, it's much more difficult to sustain. Who is saying this? You say, it's me. No. It's you, but with the layer of the mind. It's the mind which is complaining. You, the witness consciousness, who witnesses the mindfulness of the breath, who witnesses choicelessly the loss of mindfulness, who witnesses the attempts, successful and unsuccessful, to practice mindfulness, you are always steady, choicelessly so. Settle back into that and then do a little bit of practice what will come without identifying with the doer of the practice. The trigger would be this, crucially. The moment this complaint comes up, ask, who is complaining right now? You will see not awareness, not the knower of the field. It's the mind which is complaining. Just this recognition, which is also in the mind, it will throw you back to what you always are, that one light. Next step will become much easier for the mind to do. Does this make sense? Yeah. You had a question. You can pass the microphone down. Then we'll do that and then end.
Swami, Aleš from Czech Republic. And you mentioned prana.
Yes.
Prana is connected with living beings. And consciousness is dependent on the food, because animals and living beings will not eat chairs, will eat food.
Yes.
So food is connected with consciousness, and consciousness is dependent on the food. If there is no food, there is no consciousness. And you always mention we are consciousness, we are witness consciousness. So my question is, this consciousness is not eternal. We are eternal. Consciousness is not eternal, because consciousness will disappear when food will not be here, or living being will not be here.
Yes.
So consciousness is not eternal. We are eternal.
What is that we?
Absolute, or our nature.
What is that our nature?
Svarupa.
The Swarupa, correct. Swarupa literally means our real nature.
Yes.
But what is that really? For example, body, I know what is the nature of the body. It's
Yes.
made of food. Mind, I know what's the nature of the mind, made of thoughts. Swarupa, what is it made of?
It's not made of. It's not dependent on objects. It's not material.
Is
So-
it non-conscious?
Is consciousness and unconsciousness is duality. Svarupa is out of duality.
This consciousness, can it exist without that Swarupa? Without the Swarupa, can consciousness
Svarupa can exist without consciousness.
Yes, but can consciousness exist without Swarupa? Opposite.
can consciousness exist without?
Apart from the Swarupa. If you remove the Swarupa, suppose it's possible to remove the Swarupa, will consciousness exist?
No.
No. So consciousness is also, in some sense, it is the Swarupa.
Yes.
Yes. Everything is the Swarupa, in fact.
Yes.
The Swarupa is the Swarupa of everything.
Yes.
Yes. What you are calling consciousness is the activity of the mind. It
Maybe
is
reflected consciousness.
Yes. It is definitely dependent on food. It's part of the subtle body. It is the consciousness manifested in the subtle body. It is what the Buddhists call the Vijnana Skandha, the 5 pillars, aggregates. One of them is Vijnana, this awareness or consciousness. Nisargadatta Maharaj, for example, in one place he says, when the body dies, consciousness is gone. Then what remains? We remain as awareness. Now it's the word which is being, in English it creates confusion, yes. So, the reflected consciousness will disappear when life disappears. Until again life is manifested, reflected consciousness will not be manifested. Why wait till that point? Deep sleep, when we fall asleep, when the mind goes back to the seed state. There is no, this reflected consciousness is not there. What you're calling consciousness, we call reflected consciousness here. So that's why it seems the deep sleep is a state of blank. It's not blank. It's something that is appearing to the Swarupa, as you are using the word Swarupa. Yes. So when we are using consciousness, you are using it in the sense of pure consciousness or Chit or Chaitanya, which is the Swarupa. Not in the sense of this seeing, hearing, talking, smelling. Not in that sense. Think about it as the sunlight and the moonlight. The moonlight continues, moonlight is nothing but sunlight. But the moonlight continuously changes. And at one time the moonlight disappears. A new moon day.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when I am not conscious of anything,
Yes.
why it must be called consciousness?
You need not call it consciousness. Yes. Shankaracharya says, Vijnanam Anandam Brahma, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. He says, even these words, consciousness, bliss, these are also used with respect to some upadhi, some kind of appearance, some entity. If you don't call it consciousness, you will say, so it is non-conscious? Is it unconscious? You'll say, no, it's not unconscious. As you said, consciousness, non-consciousness are binaries. It is the witness of both. So consciousness is a good way of pointing it out. For example, is it existent? Does it exist, the Swarupa? It doesn't exist, or is it non-existent? No, you'll say, no, it's not non-existent.
We mentioned transcendence.
Yes.
Rama is transcendence. And it's behind everything.
Yes. Beyond everything. Yeah. But everything is not different from that Rama. So it is grounded in that Rama. Otherwise, nothing would appear. Yeah. At one point, you have to drop these words. But these words are very good ways of pointing out the Swarupa. Consciousness is a good way of pointing out the Swarupa. And this correction is necessary. Otherwise, what kind of consciousness is talked about in consciousness studies? Seeing, hearing, talking, thinking, remembering, enjoying, suffering. These are all consciousness with the mind and with the senses and interacting with objects. So that kind of consciousness comes and goes. And it is dependent on the subtle body, which is dependent on food. You're right, absolutely.
Because Ramana Maharshi said, Ajatavada,
Yeah.
no birth, no death, no
Yes.
teacher, no disciple, no ignorance, no salvation. Ramana said, even this Ajatavada is concept, it's only concept. Even that, this is concept.
Yes. Using the network of concepts, once you notice the Swarupa, or you are that Swarupa, once it becomes clear, then you notice whatever Ramana says, you check. You say, yeah, correct. What he says is correct. But until that clarity is attained, one must use the network of concepts. And be careful to note that they are concepts, not get caught up. Concepts can be two-edged sword. One is they can take you to the truth, but they can also trap you. Yeah. So concepts are to be used. They are what is called upaya in Sanskrit. Upaya means it's like a boat which you get into and takes you across the river. Once you have crossed the river, you don't want to carry the boat with you. You have to let go of the boat. So you have to let go. One teacher, I remember, whom I mentioned earlier, Ramananda Saraswati, who said, as long as breath will continue, Mandukya will continue. So he said in one place, he's talking with a young monk, And he's telling him to let go of this. And that young monk finally said in exasperation, at least I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. That much I must hold on to. And the Ramananda Saraswati, he said, that's exactly what you must not hold on to. You must not hold on to that. Because this monk was thinking, there's a practice I must hold on to. You're now telling me to let go of practices. Yeah. And so the final practice is that I know I am the witness consciousness. I am Brahman. I am the knower of the field. I must stay there. And the instruction was, don't stay there. Because if you stay there, you're still holding on to the mind, and the mind is holding on to you then. But before that, a lot of ground has to be covered. So from the very beginning, if you let go, the person remains as the person is. Gross materialist remains a gross materialist.
Well, some traditions, Advaita traditions, keep very big importance on devotion after realization. This is very important to keep devotion after realization. This is a tradition of Nisargadatta Maharaj, for example. He also was singing bhajans after realization, 40 years, and doing puja every day. And could you explain why?
Yes, I remember this very great monk of our order, Jagadanandaji. He is the one who made the Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga, the great master, which has now been, a new translation is available from Chaitanandaji. But Jagadanandaji was the first to translate it into English. And he was a disciple of the Holy Mother again. So, in his lifetime, in our order, he was regarded as an enlightened person, Brahmagyani. So in this ashram in Dehradun, there's a place called Kishanpur in Dehradun. We have a beautiful ashram there. So the story goes, this old Swami, who's regarded as an enlightened person, early in the morning, he is plucking flowers from the garden for the puja in the temple. And a novice, a brahmachari, is puzzled. One day he asked him, Swami, why do you do this? I mean, it's seen as a practice for the beginners, for us. All right, we have to do the puja, we have to decorate the image, we have to collect the flowers and arrange everything, do the puja, chant the mantras. But you are an enlightened person, you are a Brahmagyani. Why do you still do this? And his answer was, it seems he was a very tall man, so he would look down and his very sweet smile, he said, then you tell me, what should I do? In Bengali he said, Tumi balo ami ki korbo? Which is a great point. We have a conception of what an enlightened person should be like. So the idea might have been in the novice's mind that collecting flowers for the worship is a beginner. He is an enlightened person, so maybe he should be studying the Upanishads or giving lectures or remaining in Samadhi. For the enlightened one, all of these are manifestations of Brahman. Enlightened man might be cooking in the kitchen, might be administering a kingdom, might be sitting in Samadhi in a cave, could be doing anything. From that person's perspective, it's all the same. There's no difference at all. It's why we get puzzled is because these for us are practices to take us to enlightenment. So this person, if he has reached enlightenment, why is he still doing a practice? Remember, that's what I was saying. Do you remember I said these practices of jnana, these are like a sandwich. On both sides of enlightenment, these are there. On one side of enlightenment, these are practices which will get us to realization. On the other side of enlightenment, they manifest that realization. This is the Gita shloka. Brahmarpanam brahmahavi brahmagno brahmanautam brahmaiva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. The fire is Brahman, the ladle is Brahman, the priest is Brahman, the offerings are Brahman. The fire sacrifice? And the one who sees Brahman in every action, that one attains Brahman. The word used there is very interesting in Sanskrit. Brahma karma samadhi. Which means the one who has attained samadhi by seeing Brahman in every action. Every action. Every action, literally. Yes. So we'll keep it at that. We are holding up the whole class. But anyway, good questions. Thank you so much. Thank you.